What's your opinion on CTF? I think people who hate CTF should be used as alligator bait. Because CTF is a quintessential experience in not only TF2, but all team-based shooter games. And 2 Fort is still the most popular map in the game after 18 years for a very good reason. What is its biggest strength? I think the biggest strength of Capture the Flag is that its core design offers a reliable, authentic TF2 experience for people of any desired playstyle or skill level. In a game called Team Fortress, it's undeniably the game mode where you feel the most like you're either infiltrating or defending a fortress. On top of that, it's deeply nostalgic for myself, and I'm sure just about anyone else who's played the game for any meaningful amount of time. It's extremely important to the game's roots, and I find it comfortable. Another thing I like a lot about CTF is the tug-of-war dynamic it provides. Other game modes like Payload Race tried to improve on this format, but ultimately fell flat because their map design basically funnels the two teams away from each other toward opposite ends of the map. Not a problem in Capture the Flag. CTF is also a bit like a sandbox because you can really do whatever you feel like and still have fun. Every class and playstyle has room to meaningfully contribute in CTF, no matter what part of the match you joined or which team you're on. Unlike on Payload, CP, or Attack Defend, where you might not want to play NG on offense if you don't enjoy harassing people with mini-sentries or constantly moving your buildings. Somewhere along the line, people have convinced themselves that Capture the Flag can only be fun as a goofy, lowbrow experience. But really, sweating for a victory in pub pushing can be just as fun if you're in the right server. I find it appealing in a similar way to other classic TF2 experiences like Dust Bowl. Just a wonderful meat grinder kill box that does a bang-up job of putting the heat on players and getting them having fun without thinking too hard about it. It just feels great to finally bunker bust an engineer nest and their pybro, who have been giving you hell for God knows how long. CTF perfectly exemplifies the chat room with guns appeal that Valve's own developers have described in the game. And while I can appreciate that a lot of people simply find these maps overplayed or don't enjoy the way they function today in casual mode, if you can honestly say you hate 2 Fort, or especially CTF as a whole, I genuinely don't think you can say you truly appreciate TF2 as a game. What's its biggest weakness? When you ask me what CTF's biggest weakness is, it's a bit of a tricky question. Because really, a lot of the weaknesses that come to mind regarding CTF are just products of how TF2 as a game and its players' tastes have changed with time. Sure, CTF maps are usually cramped, choky, and not very vertical. But that's how almost all of the older official maps were. For the most part, that's just how the game was originally designed before certain unlockable items and game rebalances encouraged Valve to open things up more. And then there's the issue of how CTF is primarily played today through casual mode. Maybe the simplest way I could describe CTF's biggest weakness is that it simply wasn't built with all the crazy and terrible things Valve did to TF2 after its release in mind. And it's admittedly in a very rough state today. Before Meet Your Match, Capture the Flag servers had time limits, and matches would usually end within 30 minutes to an hour. There were stalemates, but also sudden death mechanics that kept things fun. Nowadays, though, nobody even remembers any of that. Because for 9 years, Capture the Flag and Payload Race have been basically broken, functioning completely different to how their formats were originally designed. For 9 years, Capture the Flag and Payload Race have had their round timer entirely gutted, meaning there's no guaranteed end to any game until one team wins. A game of CTF can now last multiple hours when it used to typically last 30 to 50 minutes, and with no stalemates or team scrambles anymore, it's essentially turned the game mode into TF2 purgatory. Switching out time limits for round limits and removing scramble and Meet Your Match is one of the biggest mistakes Valve ever made with TF2, but practically no other game mode was hurt by it more than CTF. CTF never felt like the most focused, objective-based game mode, but now, capping on a CTF server basically just interrupts what everyone's been forced for 9 years to accept as a laid-back, endless meme lobby, and makes them sit through a farcical map vote as if anyone is ever going to vote for anything other than 2 Fort, and then a completely pointless loading screen and pre-round timer. You just never get the satisfaction of winning and moving on to the next experience, because CTF lobbies are still fundamentally broken in TF2 after nearly a decade. And some of the crazy things Valve has done to the game in other departments don't help either. Of course, the contract system interacts with CTF poorly since the games go on forever, while contracts require you to finish your match to turn them in. But far more egregiously, it seems like Valve outright forgot CTF even existed while designing some of the game's post-launch unlocks. Mini-sentries let NGs sneakily harass enemy teams in a way that's not very fun or skillful. The god-awful Wrangler shield that gives sentries 600 health. the short circuit that deletes projectiles, air blast countering soldiers, and the home wrecker have all made it even easier to turn intel rooms into impenetrable strongholds. That's not even mentioning how the rescue ranger makes it possible to keep a nest alive from around a corner and steal it away when it's about to die its rightful death. All of these changes since the game's early years have turned infiltrating the intel on a sweaty server from a fun challenge. To a cacophony of unintelligible bullshit that pubs sometimes just don't have the coordination to deal with. In my opinion, CTF is not the antiquated, directionless fuck-up demonstrating the worst 2007 delirium of TF2's devs. That's Hydro. CTF, meanwhile, is actually the perfect benchmark to analyze all the dumb, thoughtless, gimmicky shit Valve did to this game. Because it's far from a poorly designed TF2 game mode or set of maps. It's simply been abused by developers who are clearly asleep at the wheel, and brutalized by Meet Your Match. That update turned CTF's worst technical flaws into the game mode's entire identity by mindlessly gouging out its safeguards. It outright destroyed the game mode's entire design, and Valve still haven't fixed it after, again, almost 10 years. While I think it's a little Reddit to specifically hate CTF, I find it hard to blame anyone for finding any part of TF2's experience bad, when this is the baseline level of mistreatment and freakish experimentation Valve has forced the game and its players to endure. Today, to a lot of players, CTF has become nothing but silly, new bland purgatory. And with all that in mind, I can certainly see why someone would dislike what's come of it, or not be in the mood for it and deselect it from their map queue. Do you have any fond memories of playing there? If so, what are they? Well, the recurring iconic the experience I've had, and that I'm sure all the other 2 Fort lovers have had, is enjoying a match where you make a personal nemesis of someone on the other team and spend a ton of time going back and forth targeting each other, either dueling or just seeing who leaves the game first. I love going demo night on Turbine, or jumping on top of the 2 Fort bridge and building a nest there as Engie. Just see how long you can keep it up there before someone on the enemy team pulls out the direct hit. Or standing on the precarious lamp just outside the sniper base spawn, shooting pipes or rockets through the window to try and hit people who usually aren't expecting anyone to be standing there. Anything else to add? I think the general hatred people have for CTF reflects a lot of different things that don't really have anything to do with its supposedly abysmal design. It reflects a long-growing distaste for the types of classes that thrive in CTF, like Sniper. It reflects a deep conflict in TF2's identity as a game. It's just plain weird to play a game that's giving you round limits and calling itself a competition, while also putting you in lobbies that go on forever and kind of feel like trade servers. I suspect many players who dog on CTF simply played a lot of it when they first started playing TF2 and associate it with their younger years, and they feel like they should shun that experience so they can show they've grown into a more mature TF2 player. But truthfully, CTF is the DNA TF2 was born of, and you're really not a TF2 player if you haven't played and enjoyed Capture the Flag. I mean, what even is Team Fortress 2 without 2 Fort? If you subtract the letters, you're just left with Team RIS. I don't know about you, but that sounds lame as hell to me. And hey, it's not like fucking manpower was any better.